Hey guys, Grunt TV 1776 here. Today I got to interview someone very different, very special, because people in his generation are dying off now. I got to interview a Vietnam vet, but before Vietnam, he was also in the Korean War, and he was terribly wounded in the Korean War. And then he got sent to Vietnam in 1967. I'm talking about the person I interviewed is Roy Schrump. He made it up to the rank of lieutenant colonel. Lieutenant colonel is an 05. 05 is two ranks below a one-star general, one rank below a full bird colonel in 06. Uh, he was also a Green Beret and was captured in Vietnam by the VC in 1967. He was in total isolation for 2.5 years because at the time he was the highest ranking person that they captured. He was a major in '05 in the U.S. Army as a Green Beret, as Special Forces. Uh, when his position got overran, he didn't surrender. He was wounded at the time, and he his position got overran while he was all fucked up, shot and shit. That's the only way to explain it. And his story is very horrifying. Uh, Anyone that joins that wants to be special forces or a frontline troop should really watch this video and get the advice from someone that's really been captured before, that's really been tortured for more than 4 years. For 2.5 years, he was totally by himself because he was the highest ranking person. They kept him separate from us enlisted people. And uh, and how Ramsey Clark and Jane Fonda were their messages of anti-war and to surrender were used by the Viet Cong to try to fuck with his head. They wouldn't let him eat till till after these propaganda messages were played, kind of like what Hugo Chavez did in Venezuela type of deal. Right now he's 86 years old, and he's a true winter soldier. He hasn't stopped fighting for America since the day he joined when he was 17 years old till the time he he got into his last fist fight at 75 years old in Kuwait. So this really tells you what type of person this man is, and I hope I did this interview justice because I kept to the scope. I didn't get into the Korean conflict. I didn't get into Iraq War One conflict. I didn't talk about the Gulf of Tonkin. I didn't talk about John McCain because his son brought up the last two topics and said don't talk about it because his dad has uh, is very triggered by those by those by those questions that I would ask about John McCain and what he went through. But I understand more now, speaking to a POW from a liberal standpoint of what they went through and why they broke. Because also before I interviewed Roy Schrump, Lieutenant Colonel Roy Schrump, I got to talk to a SEER instructor, and the SEER instructor said no matter what, you will break. He goes, you're gonna break. Eventually, you're gonna break. The only thing you could do is buy enough time so they could change back at base all the methods and planning of what's gonna go on next, because they know eventually after a few days or weeks you're gonna start talking from all the torture. And this guy got tortured a shitload, and in this video he explains this to you. Um, I hope I gave this old dude justice in in explaining his story from a vet to vet standpoint. There's a lot of things I didn't question him about because I didn't want to trigger him because the shit he went through. Hopefully you guys understand. Here you go. Hope you guys enjoy. Run TV 1776.
One of these that I done was for the Boy Scout
For the Boy Scouts?
Yeah, an Eagle Scout was doing a project for a merit badge.
So it started to record now. What's your name?
Raymond C. Schrump.
Well, what rank did you? When did you join the military? What branch did you join?
I joined the Army in 1949 and was 17 years old, and I went into the infantry.
Infantry?
Yes.
What MOS was that? Is that? I was in the Air Force. I don't know.
I don't remember.
Is that 11 Bravo?
I think so.
Oh, okay.
But I graduated from basic training. My company commander, I was supposed to go to engineering drafting school, and he sent me to leadership school.
Oh. What year was that? Or what year?
1949.
No, 19. That's when you graduated basic.
Yes.
Oh, okay. And when you did decide to join the military, like, did you want to get deployed to be sent out into a conflict?
I couldn't wait.
Really?
I was really eager to challenge my leadership to see if I had it.
Yeah, to see if you had the stones for it, the salt.
And I got promoted so rapidly. I was promoted on a platform when I was instructing the aiming and sighting of the M1 rifle.
Yes.
The general called me up the platform, promoted me to sergeant. Next thing, 2 weeks, 3 weeks later, they promoted me to sergeant first class.
You ended up as an E7 that fast?
E6.
It's different for the Air Force, that's why.
When I came back from the Korean War, they had frozen all the ranks D7, and a lot of officer ranks were frozen for a while.
Oh, wow. Okay. How long was basic training back then?
14 weeks.
14 weeks?
Yes.
And how long was your A school?
I didn't go. I went to the leadership school.
Oh, okay.
Right from basic training to leadership school, which was 11 weeks, I think, and was very thorough.
And you had to go through all the rifle training and everything else?
Oh, yes.
Oh, okay. I don't know anything about the Army, that's why I asked. And what did it mean to you after you passed your leadership school? What did it mean to you after you graduated leadership school?
Well, I think I had a good grasp on leadership, and still was bewildered by it all. At 17, you just, but anyway, I went home on leave, and they called me back to go to the Korean War.
This one isn't about the Korean War. I want to talk to you about the Korean War. This is about the Vietnam War. I really want to ask you about the Korean War in this, but I want to keep it streamlined. So after the Korean War, the Korean War ended in 1953.
Yeah.
So after that, when did you know you were going to Vietnam?
Well, not till 1967.
1967.
Yes. But I was wounded in Korea, and it nicked the bottom lobe of my lung, and it took out half my stomach and a couple of yards of intestines, and I was in the hospital, Tokyo Army Hospital, for a year.
Oh, wow. I thought you would have stopped trying to fight. Oh.
No, I went to OCS and went to Okinawa.
So you went Mustang as an officer? Mustang is when you go from enlisted to officer.
I had to go to officer candidate training, which is 6 months.
Oh, so you got your butter bar and everything.
Yes.
So you came as a second lieutenant, and then you worked. What did you work your way up to in the officer rank? I didn't even know this.
A major before I went to Vietnam, but I went to Special Forces, and there I went to language school for a year and took Cambodian language, could read, write, and speak good Cambodian, and then I went to the 1st Special Forces on Okinawa, from Fort Bragg.
Oh, see, I thought I was I was interviewing a listed person. I didn't know I was interviewing a major. No, I find it funny. No,
That's just another American.
Yeah, no, I know that you made it. That you went from like as E1 all the way to 05.
No.
I find that interesting. Oh wow, okay.
Anyway, in 1967, I got my orders to Vietnam. I woke up on the 13th of August, 1967, and told my wife I would not be back.
Oh,
I had a bad dream about Vietnam, and I was recovering from a broken leg, and I was in a full-length cast, and then went on to school for.
I remember when I talked to you about Vietnam. You said you weren't in the military anymore. That you were a contractor or something like that.
No, I was a contractor after Vietnam.
Oh, after Vietnam.
Yes.
Oh, okay. So you what rank were you when they sent you to Vietnam?
I was a major.
So you were in 05.
Yep. 04.
Oh, I mean 04. It's been so long since I've been in. Okay. Who was the president during that time?
Nixon was president when I was let out or released. I don't even remember.
Oh, it was so long ago type of deal.
I remember Truman and Nixon. Johnson. Johnson was president.
And what were you doing in Vietnam?
I was a senior district advisor. I was assigned to all the special forces units were full up, and so they asked me if I wanted to go be a senior district advisor, and I had ran into a lieutenant colonel in personnel that I had put through basic training. His name was Breckenridge, and he let me kind of choose what I wanted. He wanted to send me to the Vietnamese military school academy, but I didn't want to do any more instructing. I wanted to get in this thing and get it over with.
But you were in 05, like we don't normally. I mean, in 04, we don't normally send 04s into frontline combat, do we?
Well, certainly.
Oh, not the Air Force, not the Air Force.
We
only the pilots.
we have to have commanders, and anyway, they assigned me as a senior district advisor to the Hue Tin district, which is in Tay Ninh province, and it's right at the junction of Highway 1 and 22, which one goes into Cambodia, one goes north.
Well, what day were you captured? Do you remember?
Yes, I do. May 23rd, 1968.
And what were you doing when you got captured?
There was an ambush of an American unit during moving to our district, and I was on radio watch for the team, and they called up and said they wanted a relief force to go let this American unit move through so they could go to their primary mission. And I coordinated with the battalion commander. I had my team pick up about 200 what we call rough wolves, soldiers who stay in our local area and are just poorly equipped, poorly trained. We had a second lieutenant assigned to us to train those rough wolves from the 25th Division.
Oh, they were Americans or were they local Vietnamese?
Local Vietnamese.
Okay.
They volunteer from their village and they could stay in their village.
Oh, okay. And I asked before, not an insult or anything in any way, the military propaganda things
Not
like
going to insult me.
Yeah, it's. Did you have any means to fight back before surrendering? How did you get captured?
Well, first of all, I didn't surrender, and when I arrived at the ambush site, it had subsided. They weren't firing anymore. All of my troops were in a ditch along the road, an open field of about 50 meters, there were 4 bodies laying there. I went out immediately to determine if they were dead or wounded and to bring out stretchers to pick them up. And I made a motion with my arm. The whole wood line opened up in small arms fire. I dropped down and returned fire, and I was wounded in the right arm, and it broke my arm and threw my arm behind me. I thought I had lost my arm. And after attempting to throw a couple grenades, I heard some noise behind me. I turned around and looked, and all the 200 or so rough puffs had disappeared, and along with 3 members of my team. But the noise was this lieutenant that was assigned to me to train the rough puffs came out and tried to get me. He lay down next to me and started to return fire, and very shortly after he engaged, he was hit in the chest and had a second chest wound. With one hand between the 2 of us, we got some cellophane over it and a heavy bandage so that he was able to breathe good. And I kept taking his pulse, and no pulse was getting weaker and weaker. And then a helicopter came on the scene. The guy in the door waved at me. I waved back. The firefight had subsided again, and we were just laying there in the field. We laid there from about 10 o'clock in the morning until about 4:30, 5 o'clock at night. And about that time, no relief force was allowed out of province headquarters. A captain at the time, now a major general, or was a major general when I came home. Anyway, I coordinated with him the day before because the TEP offensive had just ended and the main body of the Viet Cong were coming up. Anyway, they came out of the wood line about dusk. The lead person, I don't know if it was the ambush commander or not, knelt down beside me, took out a pistol and put it to my forehead. And the whole thing, I said, "I'm sorry, honey," and meaning my wife, and I thought I was going. And he flashbulb went off, and I believe the person was a Japanese journalist. Anyway, when the flashbulb went off, he withdrew the pistol and put it back in the holster. They picked me up. They bandaged the lieutenant, good bandage, and then now I went into the rubber tree plantation, and that was how I got captured.
Okay. There is no surrendering anything. Like they overran your position afterwards.
Well, yes, I wasn't laying in an open field in
Yeah.
a little DEFA, just low enough that small arms fire had only hit me once, and I think that was a sniper in a tree.
Were there any rescue attempts to try to get you? Or?
No, that's I hate to talk about it, but our motto in the Army is "No one left behind."
Yeah,
And
they drilled us with that too.
then you got to remember these were not Americans.
Yeah.
There was only 3 Americans, so they couldn't. 3 of them couldn't do it alone. But I felt if the force, the rough force, cooperated with them, they could maneuver and get in, and they could have taken the ambush because I remember there was only about 7 or 8 in the ambush that was alive or not wounded because they had to go to the village and get litter carriers with the hammock on a limb.
Oh wow. So from the moment you got captured, can you explain what the VC did before they took you to prisoner war camp? Like
Well, I never was in a prisoner of war camp, but they took me across the Van Kadang River on a log, and we were in Cambodia. But they took me to what I thought was a prisoner of war camp, was some thatch huts, hooches in the jungle in an open area that had two 2x6s on top of one another. They took me and laid me down in a little pit, and there was leg holes in the two. You lift up one, put your legs in these cut out portions, and put the top 2x6 back down on top, and lock it on the end with a padlock. And I laid there for 3 days and was not allowed to go to the bathroom or anything. I lived in my own filth for 3 days until an interpreter came, and in perfect English told me that I was going to be taken to a prisoner of war camp, and I would receive lenient and humane treatment. And he took me to a stream and let me bathe and wash all my clothes and everything. And I got all cleaned up, and off we went. And we walked, well, this was probably 15, 20 days later after I was captured. We had moved overland for all of that time. And the way that they controlled me, they had a shroud line that they tied to my broken arm wrist, and every time I go to stagger with the weakness because I was bleeding excessively, they pull it, and you could feel the bones scraping together, and it's very painful.
Did they give you medical treatment once you got settled in?
I received rudimentary medical treatment. They gave us a lot of B12 all the time that I was captured.
B12 vitamin?
B12 vitamin, which gives you nourishment and strength. And it worked pretty well in the beginning. And later on, your immune system just goes to hell. And they still continued to give it to us all the time we were in captivity. The way he set my arm when I got to that camp, he put his foot in my armpit, he grabbed my wrist, and he twisted it 2-3 times. I never experienced pain, and got a good shot.
This was it a doctor or just
no? On the job.
Oh,
trainee.
okay. Oh, okay.
He was medic. I saw him lay Vietnamese on the ground and open up his stomach and remove shrapnel without Novocaine or without
anesthesia
of any kind.
Oh wow. How many other Americans were with you in a little compound thing?
For the first 2.5 years, I was in total isolation. I was among other prisoners. At one time we had 12, and then it kept adding. After I come out of isolation, we got a couple of helicopter pilots in, and an Air Force captain, and another Special Forces captain. And we were released, 27 of us.
I'm going to pause right now and check the sound on this thing. Okay. You said you were the first American, you were the only one, you were totally by yourself for 2 years?
2.5 years.
2.5, so how long total were you?
I was in the camp with the other prisoners, but I was isolated from them, so I couldn't talk to them, or because I was the senior officer in the camp.
Did they treat you better because you were an officer, or no? Or was it worse because you were an officer?
Yeah. During interrogation, I think a little bit worse.
Oh. When did the interrogation start? From the moment you got captured?
No, it didn't start until I got to what I thought was the first prisoner of war camp, but it was not a camp. It was a prisoner of war camp. It was a camp for the VC. And I was put in a bunker and chained, and then taken every day to an interior where we had a political officer, camp commander, interpreter, and then a soldier with a bamboo stick.
This is not on the questions sheet. What did the political officer do? Well, what was his role in all this? Like,
Well, he didn't have much. He just did a lot of talking about the 4,000-year history of North Vietnam and how they had rejected the Japanese, the French, and all. And every day it was all about the history of Vietnam. And this lasted for 45 days. They did ask me about my military background, and I would cite name, rank, and serial number, and I'd get a club in the back and with a broken arm I was trying to keep from falling so that I wouldn't injure my arm. Anyway, after a little while, I just lied. I told him I was a graduate of ROTC, University of Wisconsin. I was an engineer officer, and I had a Special Forces patch on. So they knew that was a lie. and that I had a 4-year degree, and then about 2 weeks later, they called me back and told me that I was an enlisted man for 9 years, and that I was promoted through OCS. And
they found your record?
I don't know where it came from.
No, I'm saying, but like they knew your record, they knew your history.
Yeah, they had to review my records.
That's crazy.
But everything they told me was factual.
Wow, that was a political commissar doing this?
Well, a combination of the three of them.
Oh, and did he try to turn you into a communist? No. Like, or he just talked about the glorious People's Republic?
What they wanted is an anti-war position and make a statement.
Oh, they wanted to use you as a propaganda piece then. Okay.
Yes, they did.
Okay. Oh, I'll add that on the next. So, what do you think about Jane Fonda then?
I just don't care to talk about it. They would deny me food to listen to her broadcasts, and when the broadcast was over, then they would give me the food. Her and Ramsey Clark were on the radio every day.
And they would use them as propaganda pieces against you for interrogation purposes. They
would ask on the radio broadcast that the soldiers give up because they go to receive lenient and humane treatment. Stated that all the prisoners up in war, up north, were receiving lenient and humane treatment. It's terrible.
You kind of touched in on this, or your living conditions. It was just a hole with a thing to put your legs in, and it clamps on top, and they lock it.
No, they chained us.
They chained after that.
Took a chain and they padlocked it to your ankle, and the other end either to your bunker that you slept at night or a tree.
So like a 1920s chain gang type of deal.
I got a piece of chain in there. It's a very small chain, but you can do anything with it.
Okay.
With your hands.
And the POWs you were with, were they all white?
No, we had one African American and a Puerto Rican. That's the only two that were not Caucasian.
It's like I know because I speak from experience about like what Asian people think about the other color races and stuff. Did the other color races have a harder time because they were darker?
No.
Or they treat them all the same?
During the time that I was with all the prisoners, they didn't receive any harsh treatment or anything different than I'm the one that had the problem.
Because you were a senior officer, and you were making stuff up.
Well, the African American had taken medicine from a guy who was really sick and took the medicine. And I challenged him about it. got pretty serious. And he said that I was not recognized as a major or just another prisoner.
Oh,
And he wasn't taking any orders from me. Turned out to be a good prisoner, really good prisoner.
oh. How was the food? Well, while you were captured.
Well, the rice was relatively good, but it had little rocks and stones in it. And when we got along with the rice, we got about a bowl full of rice 3 times a day. Then they would take eggplant and boil it, and it looked like snot.
Yeah, yeah. It looks like purple snot.
Yeah, and we'd get that sometimes for 30 days at a time. They'd fix ramung, which is some kind of plant that grows wild in the jungle. And again, 30, 40 fish heads, fish intestines, and sometimes fish. They like to eat pumpkin.
Squash or pumpkin?
Pumpkin.
Pumpkin.
Yes, and they would boil it again and then serve it, and this was putrid. Anyway, that's about it. On the holidays, on they never let us celebrate our Christmas, but they would give us maybe 4 pieces of pork, little squares of pork fat, and good rice, and it was a real
It was a treat.
delicacy, really.
Oh, did the VCs also let you send letters, the Red Cross letters, to notify your family and other members that you were captured?
No, they would. I know the guy that I call my cellmate was able to write to Bob Dole and somebody else. I received a letter from my wife, and it was at a point where I no longer could walk. They carried me back to the camp commander and the political officer to interview, and they're really aware, and they had bread and other things on the table. They say, you make a statement, we'll give you good food and get good medical treatment. Well, I went on until I got this letter, and it said that my boys were playing baseball, football, and then my daughter was in ballet, and on the bottom of it was 3 capitalized words, I love you. And for the want of that love, I would do anything. The code of conduct I believe in and still believe in, but Article 5, just recently, I understand, as I read it, has been changed to where you can use the code or making of a statement or something. But anyway, I made a statement. When they carried me back the next day, I just divorced myself from the military, from America, and everything else. I just wanted to go home.
How long did it take for you to reach that point? Like, how many years did it take, or how many months or weeks?
Right at maybe 2 years, 3 months.
So you lasted 2 years, 3 months before you made any statement at all.
Yes,
Like,
and I made it broadcast.
While you were while you were wounded and had no medical treatment from that gunshot wound, and wow, two years and 3 months.
Yes,
a long time.
And that statement was released in Paris to my wife, the handwritten one that she has today, I think.
What was going on during the war when you made that statement? Was the war almost over, or was it over, or
no? It was
going strong.
It was probably early 70, maybe as late as 71. But big going. But what I learned was when I came out or came back from the field hospital, I went to for 3 days, I think it was, and received some treatment. Was brought back, but fed good. Boy, they gave me good food, and I got my health back to some degree. And then when I came back, I found out the whole camp participated into a joint statement, but was never publicized or used as propaganda like mine was.
Oh.
When I came home, they had already stated to my wife, Department of Army, that that statement was taken under duress. And that's the way they reviewed it when I come home. And they read me my rights when I was being debriefed. When I wanted to tell them about the statement, they would not let me talk unless I
had a lawyer?
Too intelligent.
You gotta have a intel.
What do they call that?
OS Air Force. We call OS Air Force. I don't know what was.
Anyway,
CID.
They read me my rights. Anything you say,
yeah, they
use
it
against you.
Yeah. But I mean, 2 years, 3 months. Talking with the SEER instructor, they said like, eventually you're gonna break. Like eventually you will break. But it took you 2 years, 3 months. That's an extremely long time.
I went and briefed General Abrams, Chief of Staff of the United States Army, about the code of conduct. Then I appeared before a committee, and they did change Article 5 a little bit after that committee hearing. Then I was, just the other day I read it, and it says, it doesn't say you make a statement, you should resist to the best of your ability, but it says you will not make a statement. It doesn't say that anymore.
Oh, okay.
So I'm really happy that I was involved with that.
You made any friends while you were in the camp?
Oh, many. Every year we go to the POW Study Center in Pensacola Naval Air Station, and 7 of us from my camp get together, and they're more than friends. The whole veterans are a brotherhood, and I just believe in them. Every one of them are my friends.
Oh, and you still keep in contact with them other than the whole Pensacola meet?
One of the helicopter pilots recently had surgery to his back. I call him about every 2 weeks, see how he's doing. His wife is a lieutenant colonel, retired nurse. I've been on her for a lot of advice on my health.
And also, the final part of this part. Did you try to escape ever? I mean, no. I know you were wounded. Yes. You were wounded with no treatment.
This is one of the things I say at SEAL School. If there's anything going to keep in the forefront of your mind, is escape. And I really pulled a no good. The guard in front of me, we were on a move, and it was that night. We all went to sleep. I woke up early, and when they said, get up, we're going, I reached up and grabbed his AK-47 and shook him. If I would have woken up a little earlier, I could have had a good 15, 20 minutes away.
A head start?
But of course, I was chained we were chained to one another when we were moved.
After you got released and got sent home, did you have a hard time acclimating to normal life?
I had a real hard time until 2011. I ran away. 1981, I ran away and became a contractor, and I stayed overseas as a contractor for 28 years.
What were you doing as a contractor?
I was supporting coalition and U.S. forces. in the Sinai. Spent 10 years in the Sinai as site manager and operations officer of the observers. Then I went to the F-16 program as program manager, and there I spent about a year. And then the war broke out, and General Dynamics called me up and said, would you come over with us? We're direct support of the invasion of Kuwait. So I did, and I ran missions on up Kuwait. I was what they call a PSS manager, and I had contracts, HR, everything under me, but I was more concerned about the direct support units that we had with the U.S. forces.
So your whole life was fighting.
Well,
planning and planning on fighting, and
I wasn't allowed to carry a weapon up into Kuwait, but yes.
I'm talking about conflict.
I got to see the burning bodies in Kuwait, in the desert, and then what do you call it? When they bombed
the long road.
Yes.
Yeah, the long road when they were retreating. The Air Force.
I got there when the smoke was still coming out of the vehicles and the bodies. I have a bunch of photographs of that operation, but unfortunately my Israeli wife has those.
Oh wow! You're a true winter warrior. No, I'm talking about like hard. See, that's why I joined the Air Force. I'm more of like a summer or springtime.
Someone's pursuing what you want to do.
Yeah.
And that's important.
Everyone in the military has like a one lease divorce. Like I got one too. I'm
on my fourth marriage.
You're on your fourth marriage. How old are you now?
I'm 86. I'll be 87.
That is badass. 4 times. Wow. Okay. So how did being captured and doing all this affect your relationship?
I needed anger management really bad. In Kuwait, when I was there in 2005, my secretary refused to answer a question I'd asked her, and I threw a chair at her. And she was able to duck, and that's how I was. I had my last fist fight. I was, I think, 75, 76.
Are you serious?
Yes,
75 fist fighting?
I was at the health center in Kuwait where you have to stand in line and you got to get some inoculations and stuff. Anyway, a group was sitting off the side, and when they come up, they just jumped in front of us. So I asked very politely if we could resume our position, and they refused. And a Filipino come up to me and said, "Who do you think you are?" And I said, "Well, just another American POW."
How old was the other guy?
Somewhere between his 20s and 30s.
And you were 75 years old?
Yes, they came and arrested the Filipino.
Oh man, that's
I had a problem.
Wow.
I had a trigger point, a bunch of them. I saw at a filling station a father beating on his little son, about 5 years old, 3 years old maybe, and I went and assaulted him. I didn't assault. I stopped before I hit him, but I just would get so angry about things like that.
And it'll make you snap.
Yes, and nightmares I got. I had nightmares that nor I don't have many more because of the VA mental health treatment.
The VA's been helping you with that?
Oh boy, since 2011. I'm still in the program.
Did you drink after being released?
I did immediately. I would
Like,
wake up in the middle of the night and I'd go downstairs to the family room. I'd get a bottle of scotch, put it on the coffee table, and never open it. But I would go out and with the guys and drink, but not heavy. And then I'd finally just quit drinking. But I just was trying to get over all this drama and this stuff that they're finally talking about now.
what was the hardest part of coming back to the real world from being captured? Like
Well,
when you got to the U.S. and you lived here for a long time. Like, what was the hardest thing to deal with? Like coming
getting
back.
used to people, crowds. Although I have spoken at every major university in North Carolina, a lot of high schools, elementary schools, and everything else, it was avoiding these groups. Like the first time I was asked to speak, my wife at that time was a psychiatric technician, and I said, I'm not going to speak to any Lions Club and cry in front of all those people. She insisted I go. I went, and I didn't cry alone. Everybody in the group tried. When I got into the details of losing some of those men.
How did the Army treat you after you got released?
I hope we set a precedent for all prisoners when they come home. The Korean War, they did nothing for. I grew up during World War II and saw prisoners come home and they'd only been under treatment for some kind of disease or, broken bones, lost a leg, something like that. A neighbor of mine, a very good friend, came home about 2 weeks after he was released and with very little medical treatment. And then in Korea, the same thing. They released them, put them on a boat or a plane, or brought them home, and all they got was a doctor looked at them, and that was about it. I had a personal doctor, a personal psychiatrist, and nurses galore. I had an escort officer who was the same rank as I was, and they must have talked to my brother to select him because he liked to do all the things. We had more things in common: hunting, fishing, the military, and he was a spook.
that seems like straight up your alley. The kind of work you did.
Well, I have volunteered to be an escort officer of anybody that comes in, but I'm getting too old.
Did they give you the proper care, both physical and mental? You said, like you got all that stuff from the military trying to help you out when you got back.
Yes, the psychiatrist would not release me from the hospital until I approved. What he did, he sent a tape recording, or not a tape recording, he just sent a text to several guys in the camp and said, what kind of man was Major Schrump? And I think the most complimentary was, he was like the Rock of Gibraltar to me. And anyway, it went very well. And then I was able to have my press conference and leave.
What could they have done different to make it better?
I can't think of a thing. I think more attention has to be given to the mental trauma that you carry inside.
From being a POW.
Yes, and don't recognize, like the nightmares, the cramping and leg cramping, nightmares. I woke up twice under this table, didn't know how I got here.
And this is the type of stuff that I want to talk to you about, because this is like the unseen scars of what happens, and people don't understand this.
This helicopter I mentioned, the pilot who's having the surgery, he's I don't want to say the wrong thing on it, but he's having a lot of difficulties.
Is the military helping him out?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Another helicopter pilot, I think, has got some serious mental problems.
Does the government pay you more for being a POW?
No. I received no income for being in prison. But VA gave me 100% disability, and I draw the maximum.
So they just give you the POW medal, and they don't pay you extra for being a POW?
No.
Okay.
I have a lot of other medals.
No, I know. I'm just saying. If you had to do it again, would you been would you have wanted to die versus being captured, or what would you want, or how would you want it to be different?
Having the knowledge, I probably would take my own life, because it was an experience that I don't really like to talk about it, but I do, and there are repercussions. It takes me maybe a day or so to get over it when I go out to SEER school and talk to the SEER graduates. And I think they really got to dwell on the mental capacity. The physical things are repairable. Look at that, they put me back together so many times.
But it's the mental side, the unseen is the hardest.
Yes.
Is the hardest. Do you have any disdain for the Vietnamese people for what they did to you?
Yes. I will not go back to Vietnam. Several of the people have gone back, but I will not go back because if I meet any of them that were holding me prisoner, I probably would injure.
Yeah, you grab the sharpest thing and try to stab them with it.
No, I don't go to that extreme, but I
totally understandable.
Mess up the face.
Totally understandable. Is there anything at all you want the viewers of these videos, because mainly the viewers, either they're kids that want to join the military, that want to do all the special forces things, or these are the veterans that actually that have been in. Is there any message that you want to say to them as a POW? Because not many POWs give interviews like this.
I think being captured is part of your duty. You're trained for it. You're told what happened to other prisoners. I listened to a bunch of tapes while I was in Special Forces School of prisoners from Korea, and their actions brought about the code of conduct. They keep calling me a hero, and I get so sick and tired of that. I was not a hero. The sacrifices during that 5 years is something that I think should be recognized, and how you survive. And I think that's the most important message that I dwell on when I go out and talk, and especially to the young people, is your faith in God, faith in your country, and faith in your fellow man is most important, because they will, through their prayers and their thoughts and everything else, get you home.
For the people that want to join the military, if they had to join any branch, what branch would you recommend?
Well, of course, I kind of favor special operations.
No. I mean, I know you're going to say Army and stuff, but why?
in the armed forces today, a man going into the service can do anything he wants. It's up to him, and he has the choice. And if he excels in it, he's going to be rewarded.
To all the special forces people that see this video, what's your advice to them?
They have a greater story to tell than I have.
They have a greater story?
Yes, anyone that's been deployed, and of course in this day and age, they're deployed all the time, and they have their own story. And I know a lot of them are out there right now suffering because of that deployment, and I encourage them to get help. And all you got to do is pick up the phone call and call for an evaluation, and they'll evaluate. The physical part, I don't think we could do any better for them. The prosthesis and all that stuff that they do is just excellent, because the major wounds is loss of limbs, and they're taken proper care of. But again, get back to that middle, and if they give you an evaluation and find that you should receive treatment, take it. I don't have nightmares anymore. I don't have I have trigger points, but it's like when I'm driving. If I see movement all of a sudden off to my right or left, I'll start a maneuver.
And the last question, what's the greatest country in the world?
You're living in it.
I
always send my talks with, and God bless this great land we call America. I don't think there's anywhere that I've been, and I've been around the world several times, that's got a better form of government economy than America. And the people are. I don't believe I would be here today if it wasn't for the people in this area and the veterans who have helped me. God, they bend over backwards.
Is that one of the main reasons why you still stay very close to Fort Bragg?
Yes.
Because of the whole military community here?
I'm originally from northern Wisconsin. I'm a Green Bay Packer fan. When I can't explain to you, I don't have the words, I guess, when I come home, how I was received. And the bracelets, that's an insignificant thing you think of. You didn't hear much about it. But we didn't know anything about the bracelet. And when I come home, I've got about 700 bracelets. And it's a symbol of their prayers and the thoughts of you while you were gone. And
also, there's many stories of Vietnam vets still being that were still captured and left behind and stuff. Like even until like the 80s.
I got into the ground floor of activating something, or it was already going, but I contributed to it and would fly up there and talk. I would go out to Los Angeles and talk when they have their big meeting out there. In fact, one time I went and I got malaria while I was waiting to be introduced and passed out. But anyway, I spoke at the National Republican Party on the POWs MIAs, and there I start my thing. I hope and pray that he will bless the men who are missing in action, and that someday we'll bring them home. And that's exactly the way I say it, but I was very concerned. I felt that people were being held alive.
Yes.
What happened to me, they come up at 3 o'clock in the morning, took me out of my bunker, put me in a hammock on a tree limb. 2 guys carried me to a field hospital, and they, if I wouldn't have returned, they would have never known anything about me.
Also, this was written out. Why did they let you go?
Well, all of us, that was a peace accord. There was an exchange of prisoners at Lac-Name where we were released. The South Vietnamese prisoners came in, and we sent the North Vietnamese prisoners back to North Vietnam, and then we were released. We had a 12-hour delay. We'd already gone out to where the helicopters were waiting for us, and when they took us back in and delayed us, the helicopter stood out there, and pilots, and they waved at us and said, "We're not going without you." And of course, but we went back and planned a mass escape where we probably all got killed.
How did that make you feel, knowing that you were going to be released? And you thought it
Oh,
was...
Jesus. You see all the Americans over there by the helicopters, and they just turned around, took the truck back into the camp, and they wouldn't tell us why. Then all of a sudden they called us together, put us in line, marched us out to the helicopter, and away we went. There was a brigadier general there that I reported to. We conducted ourselves like soldiers, although we had a lot of civilians.
And you were the highest ranking person out of all of them, I'm guessing, right?
There was another major there, but I outranked him.
Wow. Man, thank you for sharing your story. Thank you for sharing your story.
We didn't cover any of the deaths while we were in camp. There's one death.
Oh, okay. Please.
Only 3 people.
Please go on about that, because I just asked you from like a seer perspective. Like I didn't want to poke and prod about the whole death thing, but since you bring it up,
it's so important.
Yes.
There was only 3 deaths caused by our Vietnamese captors, but they're significant. One is a 19-year-old boy. He was. I got to talk to him about 10 seconds one time, and I said, "This is nothing like Ranger School. Just take it a day at a time, and it's not that bad." And when he tried to escape the next morning, and they got him and wrapped chains around him, and threw him in his bunkers. The last time I saw him, the guys that were with him when he died, he gave up and died himself. The Vietnamese went into the bunker with B12 and other medication, and he wouldn't take it. He come out with a full syringe, and he died, and they carried him out in plastic. He's been recovered and is rightfully buried with honor. Another one is simply pulled up and shot him.
Execution.
Yes, he was running. He was trying to escape again. He was having some mental problems, real serious problems, and we recognized that. But he just got right up and just ran down the trail. There's no need for him to, or for the vet guy to shoot him, and they killed him.
It sounds like those 2 people you talked about lost the will to live, and they, like the second guy, you knew he just wanted to be over.
You can. I thought about the same thing, just giving up and dying. But the third one was a young captain, and he was having a lot of health problems, and they took him from his bunker and drug him out in the middle of that compound, threw him up on a bamboo rack, and left him there to die.
From exposure?
When the day that he passed, he got up on one elbow and said, "I'll do anything, just please save my life." And he fell back down, and he died within a short time after that. But there was no need for any of that. They could have given him what food he could eat. He had a broth that they made that he was able to hold down. He had the dysentery. It was terrible. He would pass big chunks of blood. Anyway, those are the guys I remember. And every member of that camp never lost faith in their God, in their country, and their fellow man. They don't have to tell me. I can tell by their action.
They just gave up the will to live.
Yes.
Because of the psychological effects of being captured for so long and mistreated.
There had to be other things that transpired with them mentally and well, physically. I went in at 164 pounds and come out at 87. It's experience that will last in your mind forever.
And during the interrogations, other than the hitting in the back of the head, like you said, what was there enhanced interrogation? Like
no, they didn't want any military information.
Like
they just wanted to know about me, what they did. It was.
They didn't rip off fingernails to try to get information. I mean,
they tried me as a war criminal.
Oh,
and they convened 11 officers that came and sat behind a table. I sat on a tree stump. They told me that I was guilty of war crimes, and I killed innocent civilians and all that goes with it, and that I had no defense, that I would be executed. Next morning, they came before daylight and took me out in the jungle, tied my hands behind my back, blindfolded me, put me on my knees, put a pistol to my head, and it fell on an empty chamber. I believe they wanted to do is let me know they could take my life anytime they wanted. Then there was no doubt about it, but they couldn't take my mind. They wouldn't let us pray in a group. One Christmas they got us together, and we're all on our chains, but we were all holding hands and about to pray, and they broke it up. They sent it back to our bunkers, and they took a Bible and they cut it up in little squares big enough to make a cigarette out of it. And they wanted us to use it as cigarette papers, and we kept it and tried to paste it together with rice paste, but we were unsuccessful. I never got any of that back. I never really kept it. I kept it, but I don't know what I did with it when I was released. My stuff that I brought back is on display down at the Special Operations Museum. And what they do, they put it out on special occasions, like Remembrance Day, the 21st of this month. And, I've been invited to a big ceremony up at Clayton, North Carolina. I'm speaking the 21st at a BFW, and then on the 2nd, we do the Remembrance Run with Rolling Thunder. Excuse me. It was all worth it to me. I go back in a minute, though I was young enough.
True winter warrior, true winter soldier.
Well,
I mean, like that's why we have people like you. Is why people are scared of to go to war with America.
That's
because we do have the fighting spirit like this.
It's not a myth, but most of our veterans are that way. We're a brotherhood, and we stick together. And look what you're doing.
Yeah. Because we were all cogs in the big wheel that we called the machine.
We all did our part.
Yeah.
Me unshaven.
It's fine. It's
I
totally
really enjoyed it.
It's fine. Thank you very much again, and thank you for talking about the last part, because I didn't want to get into that so much, because I know that's a huge trigger point.
You should ask the question.
Okay.
And let him decide whether. I know a Korean ex-POW that will not go to a ceremony. He won't go to the Korean Remembrance Day. He won't go to anything because he maybe has to talk about his experiences. And that talking to me is a therapy. And my gosh, it really works. I feel so much better when I especially talk to high schools and colleges. And I wish I could get out there now to some of these universities and what have you, because they can't relate.
No, even as me as an Air Force person, it's like I can't relate to something like this because this is like so far in between of what's normal for our daily duties type of deal.
Yes, it is.
Like,
But we're trained.
yeah, I mean, your special forces, like, they wouldn't risk us doing that stuff, like with the computer stuff that I did. Like, no, it's like they're not gonna.
You get into crypto.
Yeah, they're not gonna send you out there. That's not smart. It's like 2 years to train someone like me.
Yep.
Wow. Well, man, thank you so much for all this. Thank you again.
Well, thank you for providing this opportunity.
Okay, I'm gonna stop this now. Thank you.